Okay, we are up to Shin Ayin Chet Seif Gimel. Alright, I think today we're going to pretty much be done, if we're not already, with all the stuff of Daled Rishios and Mechitzos and stuff like that. I think we're pretty much just going to be doing Eruv Chatzeros for a few more days, I think. Maybe another week. And then Tchumin. Alright. So Shin Ayin Chet Gimel. Eruv Biyachad. So again, what are we talking about? You have two Chatzeros, one behind the other. So the outside one, A, has access to a mavoy or a street, and B, the inside one, the Pnimit, that has no access unless it walks through the Chatzer of the other guy, Mr. A, or the outside Chatzer. So he has to walk through it. And remember the main principle, we're going to say it straight out soon, but to understand, if the inner courtyard has a proper Eruv, then it's never Oser, the outer one, the one that has to walk through. If the inside one doesn't have a proper Eruv, right, and there's at least two people who are attached to that Chatzer, so since they don't have a proper Eruv, they can't carry, right, there's only one person he can carry. So if they don't have an Eruv, then they aser the outside Chatzer. Even though the outside Chatzer made an Eruv, it's no good because the inside people walk through them. Okay, let's see this inside. Eruv biyachad v'dachnu eruvim b'chitzona. So now, both Chatzeros make an Eruv together. One, they all pool together their bread together. Right? If they pool together, then they don't have to require as much bread. They all keep it together, and this way everyone can carry to each other's chatzer. That's another benefit. If not, and they've kept it in one of the houses, right? It has to be in a house of the outer chatzer. So if any one of the batim, one guy from either of the chatzeros forget to bring in his bread. Right? They all made an announcement, everyone bring in your bread before Shabbos. They make an Eruv, and everyone's waiting for this one last guy who never shows up. Shtein Asurot. All of the people, nobody can carry in any of the Batim and Chatzeros. Because of this one guy. So, if it's somebody from the inside one, so then there's no Eruv on the inside, and they aser the outside. But also because they became all together, that's another reason why he aser. Basically, no one ends up with an Eruv, because they all decided to be together. Shtein asurat, ad sheyevatel reshuto. Until this one guy, we're going to learn about it very soon, says he's mevatel his reshus. He annuls his property, his rights to use the area, either from his chatzer or from his house. Depends which one, but either one will work for other people to carry at least into the chatzer. Okay? He doesn't have to give it away completely forever. There's no mekach or memkar, it's not a choshen mishpat issue, but for Shabbos, it works. V'im natnu eruvan. Now what if they placed their eruv inside the inner chatzer? In other words, one of the houses of the inner chatzer. V'shachach echad min ha'penimis v'lo erav. And one of the inside people didn't bring his chatzer. Didn't bring his bread. He didn't forgot to bring. So this inner guy, again, shteim asurot. He ruins the entire eruv for everybody. Right? For the same reason, because the inside guy, the inside eruv, chatzer doesn't have an eruv, and they all walk through the outside guy. So that's that's main reason why it doesn't work. Aval, im shachach echad min hachitzona, velo erav, pnimit muteret. Okay, now.
How is that different from the beginning of Gimel?
Yeah, so, first of all, just to point out.
Where did they put it? They put it in the outer one at the beginning, and they put it on the inner one in the...
So, it depends where you leave it. Well, let me explain, and then let's see if that helps. First of all, if everybody, whatever the Eruv is for, if it's for one chatzer or for two chatzeros, wherever it's designed to be working for, if one guy leaves it out from either one of them, he ruins it for everybody. Until he's mevatel his reshut to everybody, not just his chatzer. It has to be to everybody because they joined all together. Whatever you joined for, that's who you have to be mevatel your reshus to. Each and every bayit, each and every person in whatever you joined for. Now, okay. Now, let's read the last case. So what happens? You left it in the pnimit. Now, if anybody from either one of the chatzeros forget, then that could ruin it for everybody. So what do? If it's somebody who forgets from the inner courtyard where the bread is, so all he has to do is, so then that one person has to be mevatel his rishus. If he doesn't mevatel his rishus, nobody has an eruv, right? Because the inside eruv, they made one, and their bread is whatever. But in this case, their bread is inside the inner one.
Place where there is both bread and all of the residents have contributed towards it.
Right. There has to be where there's bread and.
If there's an area where there is both the bread and all the residents of that area have contributed towards it, then that area works.
Okay. So let's read this part. Now, if one of the outer guys forgot.
That's exactly the rule we're saying.
Let me read again the last one. Aval im shachach echad min hachitzona velo erev. So the bread is kept in the pnimit. All the pnimit people, the inner courtyard, donated bread. But the outside, one of the outside guys didn't. So now, the outside courtyard, for sure is puzzle. They were planning all to be together. They're all planning to be in one. So the outside one is for sure puzzle, because this guy wasn't mevatel his rishus yet. Right? One of the guys from the outer courtyard was not mevatel his rishus. So now the outside chatzer for sure is disqualified. Right? Unless he's mevatel his rishus. If he didn't mevatel his rishus yet, so the outside guy disqualifies it for the outside people. Now, does he disqualify it for the inside people? No. Why? Because the inner courtyard has the bread. The inner courtyard, everybody participated. And the inner people now say, we're not using the outside people. Whenever you make an eruv, and we're going to see this soon, you can undo your bittul rishus, or you can undo whatever you decide to include. You can decide to include everybody, and then you can decide to uninclude everybody, even on Shabbos. So that's why even though they were all together, and the outside guy who forgot, he's supposed to be mevatel his rishus to everybody in both chatzeros, but if he doesn't, he's only osar on the outside one, and the inside one has everything. They all participated, they all have the bread, and they say, we're no longer being part of the outside one. If they're saying that they're still part of the outside chatzer, then they're missing somebody, and that somebody ruins it for them too. So that's why it does work.
But you can't. You can't just withdraw your eruv.
Yes, you can.
It says in last Mishnah Berurah, "Ki lo hayam da'ati sheyaved echad mibnei chatzecha v'lo yiten chelet b'ayim." Okay, so they're saying that das at the beginning didn't include this. But I just thought if I have a fight with somebody in the middle of Shabbos, I can't just withdraw my bittul rishus. Okay,
so if you look in Shin Pei Aleph, Zayin, mevatlin v'chozrin u'mevatlin. We're going to see it inside. But when you look ahead, you'll see that you are allowed to, as long as it was possible when Shabbos started to do an eruv, then you don't have to actually fulfill. We'll see when we get there.
But in any case, one guy would be mezaka everybody.
So one, yeah. That's not right. Right. One guy could be mezaka for everybody, and then you don't have to worry about somebody forgetting. But I guess that's how it was done in general back then. Okay. I don't know. Dalet. So we touched upon this. You have two chatzeros, one inside the other one, and each eruv only has one guy living there. It's a private chatzer to one private house. So then you don't need an eruv if there's only one guy. So by definition, it's kosher for the purposes of eruv chatzeros. You're allowed to carry from your house to your chatzer. So you don't have a problem of a hustle or a non-Eruv Chatzeros being Oser on the outer one. O Shnayim Bachitzona ve'Eruv. Or you have the inner courtyard, and still only one guy lives there, and you have two guys living in the outside. The extra limud is, you might think that there's two guys on the outside, you have to worry, it's a din derabanan, that maybe you have to worry that there might be two guys on the inside, and therefore it doesn't work. Okay, so we don't make such exeras, don't worry about it. Keep it simple. One guy's on the inside, so he's allowed to carry, and on the outside chatzera, either there's one guy or there's two or more guys who made an Eruv. Fine. Ein hayachid shepanimit oser al chitzona. That's the main point of the halacha, is when you have one guy on the inside, he can't be oser on the outside. Even though he's going to walk through their chatzer and he didn't make an Eruv, he doesn't need to make an Eruv. He's the only guy there. So since it's mutter for him to carry to his chatzer, he doesn't oser the outside. Haga. V'hu adin rabim shehem kiyachid v'ein tzrichin le'arev. And so too, if you have many people living with this one guy. You have this inner courtyard, one house, he's living with his family, his kids. I don't know, it doesn't matter if there's 5 people or 100 people. They're all one family, and he's supporting all of them, even if they're adults. Then it's considered like one house, and they're not Aser. It's not called Rabim that are Oser. Even if you have a bunch of people going through the Chatzar, it doesn't matter.
And those Panimim can carry from their Chatzar into the next Chatzar?
Only if the outer Chatzar made an Eruv, including the Panimit. Because it's still...
Take them up the Chatzar to the Chatzar.
Yes. You don't need an Eruv.
That's all they could do.
That's all they could do, unless they made an Eruv biyachad. Hey, Shalosh Chatzeros Zo Lifnim Mizo V'yachid B'kol Achas. You have 3 Chatzeros in a row. Each Chatzer has one bayit, basically, for the purposes of this halacha, one person. Right? It's again, you're allowed to have a family there, but Afal Pisha Rabim Dorsim Bachitzona, even though you have 2 houses, 2 people that are traveling through the Chitzona, Einam Osrim, the inner 2 courtyards don't aser the outer one, because each Chatzar to its own house is allowed to carry. So as long as the Panimit, that's the din, that's how it is. As long as the inner Chatzar is mutter to be used from their house to their Chatzar, they'll never be oser from the din of this, the Panimit oser the outside of, because of regal. Each one is allowed to carry in its own place. But if you have on the inner courtyard 2 people, 2 homes that did not make an Eruv, so even though the middle and the outer one have only one guy in there, they are oser on them because that's how they walk. Zeh klal. This is the principle we've been trying to say all along. Regel ha'asura bimkoma. If the people walking are oser in their place, oseret shelo bimkoma. They're oser the people who are not in their place if they have to walk through. That's their only exit to the mavoy and Rosh Hashanah. The regel ha'muteret, but wherever it's mutter on the inside, chatzar to carry within itself from those houses, eina oseret shelo bimkoma. It's never going to be oser an outer courtyard, even if they have to walk through it.
What's the logic there?
Shin ayin tet. Dinei chatzeros uvatim b'nehem. You'll let me know tomorrow or the next day. Dinei chatzeros uvatim b'nehem. Aleph. Shtei chatzeros ushlosha batim b'nehem. So you have 2 chatzeros on the outside and 3 batim, 3 houses in a row right in the middle. So each chatzer is touching one bayit on the outside. You have 3 homes. They're all attached townhouses, whatever you want to call it. 3 homes are all in a row. And on each side, on each end, you have one chatzer. So the chatzer, and each chatzer only has an attachment to one house. Tuchim zelazeh v'rotzim la'arev yachad. So there's a doorway in between each house. You have to have a doorway or a chalon. And they want to be able to carry from one house to another. Everyone together. So, no problem. you can have everybody carry from everyone's house to both chatzeros. How? Chatzer ze ba derech bayit she'etzlo, v'noten eruvo b'bayit she'be'emtza, v'chein osa hashniya. So each chatzer on the outside has its own, let's say, 2 houses, for example. So we had 3 houses, let's take that in the picture. You have 3 houses in the middle, a chatzer on each end, and on each end, next to the chatzer, on the other side of the chatzer, you have more houses, let's just say 2. So basically you can have 2 batim on the end of each chatzer, and they're financing this entire project. So nobody on the middle 3 houses need to even donate a piece of bread. Right? We're talking about each one is donating a bread. Not one guy's mezaka for everybody. So you can have the 2 outer homes beyond the chatzeros financing everything, and the 3 middle ones don't pay a penny. So the outer 2 houses on one who are attached to one chatzer, they put the bread in the middle house. And so to the other outer houses, they put a couple loaves of bread, they have enough for everybody, right? It has to have the right quantity, and they put that in the middle house. So the middle house, umutarim b'shloshtam, and all 3 homes and all 3, everything is mutter. Everyone can carry. Shekol, because the middle house doesn't have to give, right? We're going to read that at the end. Because he's hosting the bread. The one who's hosting the bread doesn't need to give the bread. Shekol bayit she'etzel hachatzer chashiv lo kebeit sha'ar. And the house, the first house that's next on the row of 3 houses in the middle, the outer 2 are like a beit sha'ar. They're like a corridor or a hallway for the middle house. Ve'in tzarich litein pat, so they don't have to give any bread. And that is the house that you're putting the bread into. So they also have ve'in tzarich litein pat, and therefore that works. The Mishnah Berurah points out, some say, sounds like he agrees, but maybe not wholeheartedly. He says, some say you can even put the bread anywhere in any one of the houses, even the extreme houses. And all the middle ones are considered like a beit sha'ar, and they're all included. So, question. Alright. Probably works, but lechatchila, just do it with the example is in the straight Shulchan Aruch. Beis. Shtei chatzeros u'shnei batim b'neihem. So now you have 2 chatzeros on the outside, 2 batim in between. V'lo ervu yachad ela kol echad le'atzma. So here the problem is, in this case, everyone wants to make their own separate eruv. They made it this time that the 2 chatzeros can't carry into each other, right? The houses are both chatzeros, but each chatzer and each group of homes can only carry into their chatzer. That's how they designed this eruv. So in this case, Uba ben chatzer zeh derech bayit she'etzlo v'niach eruv bayit she'etzlo sheni. So instead of putting the bread, let's say you had a similar case, but you're missing the middle house from the last case. You have a chatzer on each extreme. Each chatzer has a couple houses next to it, and then you had 2 houses in the middle. So so you're supposed to put the bread inside one of these. We made up 3 houses in our case. So in one of these 3 houses, one of the 2 outer ones, or one that's adjacent, in other words, you have to put the bread in a house that's adjacent to the chatzer, because that's you're using. This eruv is only using this one chatzer. But what happened? You decided to put it in one of the other homes of the other chatzer. Even though it's attached, you're using, one of the homes is in the middle. It's blocking where you put it. You put it in a further house away. There's a picture like that, if that helps. So the problem is, and so to the other guys, the other chatzeros, instead of putting their bread into one of the houses that are attached to their chatzer, they flipped it and put it in a further house away. And there's a whole house in the middle blocking them. Lo kana eruv, they didn't make an eruv. Because each one put it in in the wrong home. And since they're not all connecting, making one big eruv for both chatzeros biyachad, it didn't work. It doesn't work. All right. Shin Pei. Dine Bittul Rishas. Okay, this is important. Comes Shabbos, and one guy forgot to participate and bring bread. So if one guy in the whole group messes up, the whole Eruv doesn't work. Or one guy decides to be mezakeh for everybody else, and he says, you know what, I'm going to have in mind Mr. Plony, Mr. Plony, Mr. Plony, and he didn't realize that there's another family. He wanted to be specific to the families. Yeah. So he should have just been mezakeh to everybody who's attached to the chatzar. But he decided to specify names only and not include anybody else. He figured, the other people were non-Jewish, and he decided to be specific. Now, Shabbos rolls in, and they realize, what do we do? So, Aleph. If one person from the entire chatzar forgot, and didn't participate in the Eruv, Oser Aleihim, he makes it Aser for them, right? If he's a Jew. Ma takanatam, a goy from another reason, but okay. So what do you do with the Jews? Ma takanatam, yevata lehem reshuso. He could be mevatel reshus. He says, Sheyomar, reshuti mevutelet lachem o kanuya lachem. My usage, now initially the case is, we saw if it's stam and you don't specify when you're mevatel your reshus, that means you remove yourself. An expression the Mishnah Berurah quotes is siluk reshuta ba'alma. You don't have to make a proper here. Ve'ein sarich liknot bekinyan sudar. You're not making a proper mekach u'memkar kinyan. You don't write a contract, besides the fact that it's Shabbos. You don't make a kinyan sudar. You don't make any kind of real kinyanim. You're not mamish giving away your property. Which is why somebody might not want to do this, because they're afraid that you're going to steal his property. But anyways, what do? You say, I'm annulling my usage or my home for the purposes of Eruv Chatzeros. And you're saying, now if you just do it stam, that only refers to your usage of the Chatzer. You're still keeping the house as yours, unless you specify also you're getting rid of your house, and you're telling them, it's like basically, it's not mine for Shabbos. You don't have to specify Shabbos, but you're saying, I'm giving it to you, it's for you, or I'm mevatel myself from it. Either expression works. And so you become an owner, so you're not oser to them, and if anything, you become, it depends on the situation we're about to learn, but you become a little bit like an oreach, is the expression. Chazal, you become like a guest in their home, and you're allowed to walk there, you're allowed to maybe even carry there, so we'll see how that applies.
You're a guest in the house that is owned by the neighbors.
A guest to them.
Yeah,
exactly. Okay, so let's keep reading. We'll understand it a bit better. V'yachol levatel af mishetechshach. And you could even do this during Shabbos. You could decide that it's no longer yours in the middle of Shabbos. V'im dar im arba'a o chamisha. And if you're living with 4 or 5 people, 4 or 5 batim to the chatzer, tzarich levatel lekol echad ve'echad. The proper way to do it is you must specify, and you say I'm being levatel, to each and every one of them. Sheyomer reshuti mevutelet lecha ulecha. I think it's better in person, but lav dafka. But you do have to specify and say that my home or my portion of the chatzer is given to each and every one of you. And you can point to them, or you can say their names. V'yesh omrim shevdai sheyomar reshuti mevutelet lekulchem. And there's an opinion. Seems to be that you can rely on it only bishat chak. But you should lechatchila specify to each and every one. But Yevad, you can say that I'm giving it to all the other people who live in the chatzar.
How can you be mevatel to the second one once you mevatel to the first? It's not yours to be mevatel.
So it's not a problem. It's a good question, not a problem. Even though,
but we don't know why.
Well, these are not halachas.
It makes full sense because it's simultaneous.
No. So, first of all, if you say it in one sentence, it's not a problem. Sure. Because it doesn't call until you finish your sentence. Second of all, we're not talking about a proper kinyan over here. You're not mamish giving away your house. So therefore, I don't think your question starts.
You could give rishus to this person to walk in your chelek and not give rishus to another person. So
yeah, his question was though, if it's not in the same sentence. Right. Okay. Im bitel, good question. Maybe you'll have a better answer. Okay. Im bitel reshuso stam. If you just say, amavato my reshus, lo bitel ela reshuso sheish lo b'chatzer. So if it's just stam, you only gave away your area in the chatzer. Hilkach, heim mutza, what happens if you only give away your chatzer, not your house? Heim mutarim lahutzi mi bateim lechatzer v'gamhu. Everybody can carry from the chatzer to their houses and their houses to the chatzer. You and them can carry as much as you want. Shehu Orach ba'alma, because he's an Orach. Again, we're talking about one single guy, as we'll continue. Aval asurim lahutzi mi beito lechatzer v'gamhu. But he and everybody can't carry from the chatzer to his house or his house to the chatzer. Because you did not include your house. You did not mavata your house. So your house is yours. So your house is excluded. Unless you included your house. V'yesh omrim, shetzarich lin ol beito, and there is an opinion that says, we don't paskin like this one, but there is an opinion that says, if you did not include your home, so not only did we learn you can't carry from your house to the chatzer, but there's a din that you must lin ol beito. If you didn't include your house, it's kind of like a gzera derabanan, but it's built in. We don't say gzera. You have to use the key to lock your door, kadei shelo yavo lahotzi be'eser, so that you don't make by mistake carry from your house. Right? You're allowed to go in and out of your house all of Shabbos, but every time you go in and out, you have to lock the door, so that you don't by mistake carry from the house. V'loy elo kisherotze latzeit v'lavo v'yenalenu miyan achar tzeito uvo. Okay. Base? Fine, base. Im bita lehem gam reshut beita. Right. If you are also mevatel your house, mutarin bein hu, bein heim, lahotzi lechatzer. Everybody can carry and take things from your home and bring it into the chatzer. Bein mi beito, bein mi batehem. Everything's okay. Fine. We'll stop.